You know you work for the Democrats, don't you? You're basically an arm of the Democrat Party. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Be at 4. We're scheduled to be at 4%, which is pretty amazing because we have a deadhead Fed hair. I mean, this guy, the head of the Federal Reserve is a stiff.
Mr. President, has Secretary Hegseth told you why he hasn't released the video of the second strike?
No, he hasn't told me. I thought that issue was dead. You're surprised you bring it up. You must be CNN.
Lawmakers are still talking about it on the Hill.
Are you CNN?
I am a CNN.
Oh, gee, I'm shocked to find out.
The lawmakers are still talking about it on the Hill.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know about lawmakers. Which lawmakers you're talking about?
Just the Democrats have been talking about trying to release it.
I mean, the people that you work for, the Democrats? You know you work for the Democrats, don't you? You're basically an arm of the Democrat Party. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We need to talk about what just happened at the White House, because what I witnessed today was genuinely alarming. Donald Trump held a press conference with business leaders, and what unfolded was a masterclass in cognitive decline, authoritarian impulses, and complete detachment from reality. I'm going to walk you through this entire train wreck moment by moment, because every single piece of this matters. This wasn't just Trump being Trump. This was something darker, more concerning, and frankly more dangerous than his usual chaos. Let's start with the moment that's already going viral. A reporter asked Trump a completely legitimate question about why Pete Hegseth hasn't released the video footage of that September 2nd boat strike, the one where survivors were killed in what legal experts are calling a potential war crime. Trump had previously promised the video would be released. He said there would be no problem with transparency. But now Hegseth is claiming they need to study it. They need to review it for national security concerns. All the usual excuses that administrations use when they're covering something up. By the way, I am trying to do my best to gather all the information I can for you and share it with you. Please leave your likes and comments, and I would be grateful if you subscribed. Let's continue. So this reporter asks a straightforward question: why isn't the video being released when you said it would be? Watch what Trump does. He doesn't answer the question. He doesn't engage with the substance. Instead, he immediately goes on the attack, accusing the reporter of working for Democrats, calling CNN an arm of the Democratic Party, and then literally running out of the room. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. And he's gone. He fled from a basic accountability question, like a child who doesn't want to admit he broke something. But before we get deeper into that moment, I want you to see something else that happened during this same press conference, because it demonstrates what we're really dealing with here. Trump was trying to talk about the Federal Reserve chairman, and his brain just completely malfunctioned. Listen to what came out of his mouth. We have a dead head Fed hair, bed head, chair bed. Those aren't words. That's not a coherent sentence. That's someone whose cognitive function is visibly deteriorating in real time. He doesn't know what he's trying to say. His mouth is moving, but his brain can't form the thought. It's genuinely disturbing to watch. Now let me show you the full exchange about the boat strike video, because the reporter's question was entirely reasonable, and Trump's response reveals everything about how this administration operates. The reporter asks if Secretary Hegseth has told Trump why he hasn't released the video of the second strike. Trump's first response is to act surprised, claiming he thought that issue was dead. Then he immediately tries to guess which network the reporter works for, asking if they're from CNN. When the reporter confirms they are from CNN, Trump acts shocked, like he's uncovered some conspiracy, even though the reporter literally has CNN credentials, and Trump could see that the entire time. The reporter points out that lawmakers are still talking about this on Capitol Hill, that this is an active controversy, and Trump's response is to ask which lawmakers, to claim it's just Democrats, and then to outright accuse the reporter of working for the Democrats. You work for the Democrats, don't you? You're basically an arm of the Democratic Party. And then he ends the press conference and storms out. This is the President of the United States refusing to answer questions about a potential war crime, attacking the free press, and fleeing from accountability. Let's be absolutely clear about what Trump and Hegseth have done with previous strikes. They've released death videos of all these boat attacks. About 100 people have been killed in these operations, and Trump and Hegseth have been posting footage to social media like it's content for their Instagram feeds. They've bragged about these strikes, they've shown the explosions, the destruction, the deaths. But now, when it comes to the one strike that's under the most scrutiny, the one where survivors were allegedly targeted and killed in violation of the laws of war, suddenly they need to study it. Suddenly it's a national security concern to release the footage. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. If there was nothing wrong with that second strike, if it was totally legal and justified as they claim, why not release the video and let people judge for themselves? The only reason to hide it is because they know it's damning. They know that once the American people see U.S. military forces deliberately targeting shipwrecked survivors clinging to debris, the political fallout will be catastrophic. So they're doing what Trump always does when he's caught: deny, attack, cover up, and hope everyone forgets. But we're not going to forget. We're going to keep asking why the video isn't being released. We're going to keep demanding accountability for what happened on September 2nd. We're going to keep pointing out that this administration promises transparency when it's politically convenient and then hides behind national security claims when the truth would be embarrassing or incriminating. That's not how democracy works. That's how authoritarian regimes operate. And speaking of things that don't make sense, let me show you another gem from this press conference where Trump tries to explain what 6G technology does. Just listen to this word salad. So we're into 6G now. I just 5G. I was a leader on 5G getting that done. And now they're up to 6. Let's do it again. What does that do? Give you a deeper view into somebody's skin. See how far we get. I like the cameras of the old days. Sort of just had a nice feature. Now they cover every little bit. What is he talking about? 6G making cameras look at your skin closer? That's not how any of this works. 6G is about wireless communication speed and capacity, not camera resolution or skin analysis. This is like something a confused elderly person would say after half watching a news segment about technology they don't understand. And this man has access to nuclear codes. This man is making decisions about military strikes and trade policy and international relations. It's terrifying. Then Trump threatens the president of Colombia, and I want you to pay close attention to this because it perfectly encapsulates Trump's approach to foreign policy. The Colombian president has been critical of U.S. actions in South America, pointing out that innocent Colombians are being killed in these boat strikes and questioning Trump's tariff policies. Perfectly legitimate concerns from a sovereign nation's leader. Trump's response? He hasn't really thought much about him, but the Colombian president better wise up or he'll be next. He'll be next. That's not diplomacy. That's a mob boss issuing a threat. That's the language of gangsters, not statesmen. And Trump's justification is that Colombia produces drugs, that they have cocaine factories. Sure, drug trafficking is a problem, but the solution isn't for the United States to unilaterally threaten military action against a democratic ally. The solution isn't for Trump to position himself as judge, jury, and executioner for the entire Western Hemisphere. This is exactly the kind of imperial arrogance that makes America hated around the world. Now we get to the economic claims, and this is where Trump's detachment from reality becomes almost comical if it weren't so dangerous. He says that GDP should be able to be 20 or 25%. He literally says he doesn't know why it can't be that high. Let me explain something to Trump and to anyone else who might be confused, because that's not how economies work. The U.S. hasn't had GDP growth anywhere near 25% since we were recovering from the Great Depression. Even China, during its most explosive growth periods, didn't consistently hit 25%. Trump is just making up numbers that sound impressive without any connection to economic reality. And in the same press conference, Trump claims they've inherited high prices, but they're bringing them down very rapidly, that everything will soon be at very good levels. Except inflation is not going down rapidly. Prices are not returning to pre-pandemic levels. Manufacturing is shrinking. Job losses are up 54% compared to the previous administration. The economy that Trump claims is doing so well is actually struggling under the weight of his chaotic trade policies and his complete lack of coherent economic strategy. Trump inherited an economy that was the envy of the world. 16 million jobs had been created under the previous administration. Inflation was heading down, growth was steady, and in less than a year, Trump has managed to destabilize all of that with his tariff tantrums and his erratic decision-making. But he stands there giving himself an A+++++ and claiming everything is wonderful, while American families struggle with rising costs and economic uncertainty. Then we get to Ukraine, and this is where Trump's role as Putin's mouthpiece becomes impossible to deny. He literally regurgitates Russian propaganda talking points about Zelensky, claiming that 82% of Ukrainians want to give up their eastern territory to Russia, that there needs to be an election in Ukraine, that there's massive corruption. These are Putin's arguments. These are the justifications Russia uses for its illegal invasion and occupation. And Trump is repeating them word for word at a White House press conference. Let me be absolutely clear about what's happening here. Ukraine is fighting for its survival against an aggressive authoritarian neighbor that invaded their territory. They're fighting for their sovereignty, their democracy, their right to exist as an independent nation. And Trump is out here questioning why they haven't held elections during a war of national survival, pushing the idea that Ukrainians just want to surrender, echoing every single propaganda line that comes out of Moscow. It's despicable. It's treasonous. It makes me furious every single time Trump opens his mouth about Ukraine. Russia, 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 yes, Russia. Because Trump has consistently prioritized Russian interests over American interests and allied interests. He's undermined NATO, questioned support for Ukraine, praised Putin, and now he's actively pushing for Ukraine to surrender territory to an invading force. If that's not being beholden to Russia, what would be? What more evidence do people need that Trump sees Putin as his model and his ally rather than as America's adversary? Moving on to the Pennsylvania rally that Trump references, because the disconnect between Trump's description and reality is stunning. Trump claims there were thousands of people lined up on the sidewalk trying to get in, that it was freezing and people were desperate to see him, that it was an amazing crowd. The actual images show maybe 200 people in a small wedding banquet hall at a casino resort. It wasn't thousands. It wasn't even close to thousands. But Trump can't help himself. Every crowd has to be the biggest crowd. Every event has to be the most amazing. Even when photographic evidence contradicts his claims, he just keeps lying because he's pathologically incapable of admitting that anything connected to him might be less than spectacular. Then we get to the Venezuelan oil tanker that the U.S. military just seized. A reporter asks what's going to happen to the oil on that ship, and Trump's answer is chilling in its simplicity. Well, we keep it, I guess. Just like that. No discussion of international law, no explanation of legal authority, no consideration of whether seizing another country's property might have diplomatic or legal consequences. We're just going to take it because we can. That's not American foreign policy. That's piracy. That's what authoritarian regimes do when they have military superiority and no respect for international norms. Trump tells the reporter to follow the tanker if they want to know where it's going, like this is all some game. But this is serious. This is the United States government seizing assets from another sovereign nation without clear legal justification. Under Trump, America really has become no different than Putin's Russia or any other authoritarian state that does whatever it wants because it has the power to do so. The rules-based international order that America helped create and has defended for decades, Trump is systematically destroying it. On CNN and the Warner Brothers sale, Trump reveals his authoritarian impulses with stunning clarity. He thinks CNN should be sold because the people running it are either corrupt or incompetent. He openly states that who gets to buy Warner Brothers should be influenced by whether they'll destroy CNN, because in his mind, critical media coverage means corruption. A free press holding power accountable? That's incompetence to Trump. He literally says that any deal should be guaranteed certain that CNN is sold separately or restructured so that current management can't continue. This is the President of the United States trying to manipulate corporate mergers and acquisitions to punish a news organization that reports critically on him. This is what Putin does. This is what authoritarians do. They use state power to attack and destroy media outlets that don't serve as propaganda arms for the regime. And Trump is doing it openly, brazenly, without even pretending that his concerns are about anything other than the fact that CNN doesn't worship him. And then we get to the Trump gold card, this obscene pay-to-play scheme that Howard Lutnick proudly describes. $1 million for an individual, $2 million for a corporation, and you get expedited vetting, access, preferential treatment from the U.S. government. This is corruption. This is selling government services to the highest bidder. This is everything that's wrong with how Trump views public service, as just another opportunity for him and his cronies to make money. Everything is for sale in Trump's America. Government access? For sale. Favorable regulatory treatment? For sale. The integrity of federal institutions? For sale. Trump has turned the presidency into a cash register, and he's not even trying to hide it anymore. He's bragging about it. His Commerce Secretary is advertising the price list at a press conference, and roughly half the country either doesn't care or actively supports this corruption because they've been convinced that Trump is fighting for them even as he's robbing them blind. Let me bring this all together because what we witnessed in this press conference wasn't just Trump being his usual chaotic self. This was a demonstration of cognitive decline, authoritarian impulses, corruption, dishonesty, and complete unsuitability for office all rolled into one horrifying package. Trump can't form coherent sentences about basic policy issues. He flees from accountability questions. He threatens foreign leaders. He lies about economic conditions. He parrots Russian propaganda. He tries to manipulate corporate mergers to punish media critics. He openly sells government access. And he does all of this while his supporters cheer him on. We're under attack by this regime, not in some metaphorical sense, but in very real ways. They want to shut down independent media. They want to criminalize criticism. They want to consolidate power and eliminate checks on their authority. They want to turn America into a country where the law doesn't apply to the powerful, where the press serves the government instead of scrutinizing it, where elections are manipulated, where international norms are discarded, and where everything operates on loyalty to Trump rather than loyalty to the Constitution. And the media that should be sounding alarm bells about all of this, too often, they're normalizing it, treating Trump's insanity as just another political story, both sidesing everything, afraid to call lies lies and authoritarianism because they're worried about being accused of bias. Well, I'm going to be accused of bias anyway, so let me be clear. What Trump is doing is dangerous. His cognitive decline is obvious. His authoritarian instincts are undeniable. His corruption is blatant, and his unfitness for office gets more apparent every single day. The boat strike video needs to be released. The Epstein files need to be fully disclosed. Trump's medical records should be public. The financial dealings that make Trump and his family richer while he's in office should be investigated. The threats against foreign leaders should be condemned. The attacks on press freedom should be resisted. The corruption should be prosecuted. And Americans should be demanding accountability from their elected representatives instead of accepting this as the new normal. Because here's the thing. This isn't normal. A president who can't complete sentences, who flees from questions, who threatens allies, who parrots enemy propaganda, who sells government access, who tries to destroy critical media, who lies about easily verifiable facts, who covers up potential war crimes. That's not normal. That's not how democracies function. That's how authoritarian regimes operate, and we're watching one take shape in real time. The midterm elections are coming. 328 days and counting. Those elections are a referendum on whether Americans want to continue down this path or whether they want to restore some semblance of sanity, legality, and democratic norms to our government. The choice couldn't be clearer. More of Trump's chaos, corruption, and authoritarianism, or a chance to change course before the damage becomes irreversible. I know what choice I'm making. I know what I'm advocating for. And I hope that everyone watching this, everyone who cares about truth and accountability and democracy, will make the same choice. Because if we don't stop this now, if we don't demand better, if we just accept that this is how things are going to be, then we've already lost everything that made America worth defending in the first place. Check that you're subscribed. Double check, actually, because they're trying to suppress independent voices who tell the truth about what's happening. Make sure you're getting notifications. Share these videos with people who need to see them. And most importantly, Stay informed, stay engaged, and don't let them normalize any of this. What happened in that press conference today was not normal. It was alarming, it was dangerous, and it demands a response from every American who still believes this country can and should be better than Trump's circus of corruption and incompetence.